Is the seawater desalination, where you get about 32 to 42,000 ppm of solid. Today the challenge is discharging the wastewater, discharging the salt, or they call it reject from the desalination, means you remove the salt. So that salt is
Good afternoon and welcome back everyone. The next event on our schedule for today is the third panel discussion, the theme for which is adopting treatment systems. Panelists for this discussion include Ms. Kalpana Sindhu, partner One Crowd, and Mr. Avinash Krishnamurthy, Chief Program Officer S3 IDF. Mr. Avinash Krishnamurthy is presently a Chief Program Officer at S3 IDF. He has extensive experience in the water, energy, solid waste management and small infrastructure sectors in various capacities of project conceptualization, design and implementation. In addition to his role at S3 IDF, he also serves as Director and Project Leader of Down Environmental Solutions Private Limited, a consultancy he co-founded to provide sustainable land use practice and development solutions in urban and rural contexts. Previously, Mr. Avinash has worked with Infosys Technologies Limited, where he managed international client relationships and led teams. He holds a BE from University of Mysore with specialization in hydroenergy. Welcome, sir. Ms. Kalpana Sindhu is a partner of One Crowd and an acclaimed professional with 25 plus years of experience in strategy formulation, business development, financial analysis, risk management, and digital solutions across marquee organizations like DBS Bank, Infosys, Citibank, and CRISIL. She is proficient in structuring effective solutions for working capital, liquidity, and risk management for clients across different industries, and has comprehensive knowledge of debt and equity markets. Ms. Kalpana holds an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad and a BE Computer Science from Delhi Institute of Technology. Welcome, ma'am. This panel will be moderated by Ms. Anuradha Shankar, CEO of TechIn. I warmly welcome all the panelists and the moderator onto the stage.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Hope you all had a good lunch and not too sleepy. We will try and wake you up. Okay. So, welcome, Kalpana and Avinash, for being here with us. So, our topic for today is, for this afternoon session, is adopting treatment systems. And as we saw in the discussions in the morning, adopting these systems could be a challenge. And it has many aspects. Sewage has generally been perceived as a public, that is government initiative, and therefore the public, the general public, wash their hands off figuratively and literally from this problem. The mental block to reuse grey or any other color of water is also persistent in the population, and therefore awareness to overcome this inhibition is required. Awareness of treatment methods, lacking maintenance and service personnel to treat these and use these devices is mandatory for us to proceed further. Our earlier panelists have given us numbers and the magnitude of the problem. Let's hear from our two panel members here with your opening comments on the topic from your perspective. Yes, we'll start with Avinash.
Thank you, Anuradha. I think perhaps in the Indian context, the issue of the toilet and what happens after, the stuff that we do in the toilet when we flush it down, is so closely tied with the social history of the country in terms of, who cleaned what kind of cleaning was done, etc. That to me, when we say adopting treatment systems, it's a process to me also where the country begins to understand the ugliness of some of its social past and to try and reinvent an imagination of society vis-a-vis sanitation in a completely new way. And therefore, it's not merely about technology, it's not merely about skills, it's also about a completely new or shedding some old social imaginations and embracing new social imagination. And I think that's the most difficult part of adopting treatment systems. I would open it out that way.
Sure.
First of all, thanks so much for giving us an opportunity to discuss on this topic, which I think is very, 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 very pertinent. As Avinash mentioned, I guess this is something which we have been just trying to kind of ignore and shove it under the carpet and kind of assume that things would continue to happen the way they have been happening in the past. But I think now it is a little bit of a crisis situation, right? I think it's high time somebody needs to accept the fact that yes, it's a problem to be solved, and somebody to kind of stand up and say that yes, there are much, much better ways of handling things the way they have been handled in the past. And also for the government to acknowledge the fact that if they don't take any drastic measures in this regard, it will lead to further deterioration of our environment and the general well-being of humankind. So from my perspective, I think the time has come right now, where I think it's only sky is the limit. There is lots to be done. And as we all know, at least from an India perspective, nothing much has been done. So there's lots of scope for our entrepreneurs to come out with the relevant solutions. And as long as the solutions are cost effective and state of the art, they will get ready buyers and ready acceptance from the users as well as from the government officials.
Okay. Thank you, Avinash and Kalpana, for the introductory comments. Coming to you, Avinash, what interventions is S3IDF doing to eliminate manual scavenging? I know manual scavenging is banned, but it's still prevalent in many areas of the country.
That's what I think. Just to preface the work that we actually do, I think that what we see on ground is all the sanitation systems, however high-tech they may be, however technologically advanced they may be, we operate them in a larger culture of maintenance and regular operations, which is very weak. Our culture of regular maintenance is very weak. So, the best of technologies fail. And the shoulders on whom this technology actually functions in the country today are finally who we call manual scavengers, because you can have a membrane-based bioreactor which converts, sewage into drinkable water. But when it fails, we have a manual scavenger coming in, getting in, removing the blocks, etc. And without that operation, the system doesn't survive, right? So we operate in that broader environment. So in coming more specifically to the question, so what is happening today is, if we look at it, we have sanitation workers of many, many, many different categories. The most obvious ones are, of course, the municipal workers who we see as Paurakarmikas. But then there is a large segment of informal sanitation workers. Even the formal sanitation workers many times are working part of the time formally, but working part of the time informally. So informal sanitation work, if I look at that more broadly, some parts of it does involve manual scavenging, some parts of it may not involve manual scavenging. But I think what we have tried to do in S3IDF is to ask two specific questions in working with this community. One is that given the history of why they are doing this work, that historically because of caste, they were really not given choice. What do we begin to do so that that choice gets created? So one part of our work is to engage with them. And for those who say, listen, I want to get away from this, how do we create a pathway and how do we ensure that the laws of the land and the schemes designed according to the laws of the land actually get implemented in a way that the sanitation workers have a pathway out? And the pathway out could be both in terms of forms of micro-entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship for themselves, or it could be through employment, right? And I think the employment bit is very important because it connects to a forum like this. What is the new imaginations of sanitation? What kind of skilling is necessary? How do we integrate this kind of workforce after reskilling and upskilling them? That becomes a question. The other part of it is that for those who want to continue in the sector, how do we create a pathway within the sector which is dignified, which is safe, which is fair in terms of its economics? So these are the two large kind of components of our program. One is to rehabilitate in terms of creating pathways outside of sanitation. Another, within sanitation, how do we integrate them into new imaginations with dignity, safety, and fair remuneration and social security.
Okay, so you just mentioned blocks in the system which require them to go inside. I'm just harping on manual scavenging here more to shock people out of their lethargy to come out with solutions. So where are these blocks? Are they in sewer lines, in treatment systems?
Yeah. Blocks can be in many, many different points. Even in the most advanced, in the most good infrastructure cities which have pipe sewage, you have blocks happening actually in the pipes. These blocks may be happening specifically in the joints between the small lines into the big lines, so house connects getting into the mains. It could be at certain points in the mains. It also comes from a certain kind of behavior where there's a lot of things thrown into our toilets which should not be thrown, right? Add to this the lack of maintenance, preventive maintenance, you'll land up in situation where the blocks could be need to be addressed through the manholes, but many times the block need not be addressed through the manholes. Many times a lot of the manual scavenging actually happens also when individual households are calling them in and dealing with the infrastructure that connects the household to the actual main line. So these, in the pipe sewage context, these are the thing. In the on-site sanitation systems, which could be, which could be pits, septic tanks, so on and so forth. Firstly, the large majority of the pit toilets in the country are single pit toilets. Especially in the south, in Karnataka, 92%, for example, are single pit toilets. And single pit toilets are not necessarily sanitary. When you try to empty the single pit toilet, you have the top layers where decomposition has not taken place, and therefore that lands up becoming a form of manual scavenging. The septic tanks are rarely designed according to CPHEO norms. There's a CPHEO norm which kind of defines what a septic tank is. More often than not, a septic tank is simply a tank, a sump tank which is receiving sewage instead of receiving, thing. So when these are not designed, and which is the large majority of the case, emptying these becomes kinds of manual scavenging. So these are the two large typologies, in situ systems and piped sewage systems.
Okay, so I'm switching track to Kalpana now. How interested are angels and venture capital investors in sanitation-based startups?
I guess the simple answer is we would be very, very interested. And so that's why I said the simple answer, right? And the simple logic for that is, I guess there is a huge.
He wants you to use the phone for the recording.
Oh,
I mean, sorry, the
For the
mic.
mic.
okay, what did I do? What do I do?
It's working, you have to hold it higher, that's all.
Okay, sorry. So, sorry, coming back, so I guess there would be a huge interest primarily because of fact, look, what do VCs want, right? They want VCs to support startups which can cater to the demand in the market in a profitable manner, right? That's what the VCs want, so that they can get their returns and they can exit at high valuations or whatever. Now over here, as far as sanitation is concerned, I guess we all agree there are a whole lot of things which are still not solved for. There are a whole lot of problems which are crying for solution, right? So in that sense, yes, there is a lot of demand. Now the trick, what the entrepreneurs or the startups need to be aware of as to how do you solve those problems, right? And how do you solve those problems profitably? Now, solving the problems obviously will come with what kind of tech you have, because tech is the winner wherever you go. It's not just sanitation, even in health tech or ed tech is where that's the bottom line, right? So, what kind of tech you're using? But the issue is whether that tech is scalable, whether that tech is sustainable, how easy or difficult it is for somebody to adopt that tech, how cost effective the tech is, right? Which are the different stakeholders involved in implementing these solutions? Does the solution require a mindset change on the part of the government or the users? If it requires mindset change, how do you kind of handle that part of it? So, particular to sanitation, and because we have seen a whole lot of people trying to do different things, and we have seen various failed projects, or let's say projects which have not scaled up, I think we can learn from such kind of efforts, and ensure that besides tech, we have to ensure that we are actually able to get that tech spread far and wide in a profitable manner. And as long as the entrepreneur or the startup is able to do that, it's a very, very good space to be in. I mean, besides the social impact, I mean, besides the profitability and all that, we as venture capitalists also would like to support initiatives which are done in the area of social or environmental impact. As a matter of fact, we as One Crowd as well, we have a whole lot of investee companies who are working in the social impact space. So yes, a VC would be very, very interested, because that's a gap which has not been filled in, especially from an India scenario. A whole lot of work has happened in China and Europe and all these developed countries. From India, there's a lot to be done. So yes, it's an interesting space to be in, but whoever wants to step in and make a success out of it has to think at the various aspects around it. As in when we say thinking through, not just the tech, but how do you kind of make it easy to adapt, easy to implement, easy to maintain, and then that's how you kind of are able to capture the wallet which is available in the market.
Okay, thank you. So, moving from that question a little more, Ms. Kalpana, traditionally the revenue in this sanitation domain has been the government, right? Now, the government may give some money, but it will soon fall on public-private partnership to make it a successful story. So how would investor community view the viability of a startup in a public-private partnership scenario? Because, I mean, it may not be direct profit which the startup can take, or only a component of the profit the startup can take.
So look, the profit, eventually profits will flow in, right? What we have to figure out is, coming back to my earlier point, how good the tech is and how scalable you can make it in a profitable manner. That's all which matters. It's not just sanitation, any industry you go, that's where if a startup can crack these 2-3 points, it's bound to get successful. Some projects are long gestation I mean, there will be, in these cases, there'll be R&D involved, and then MVP, and then trial, and then the initial pickup will be a little slower, so which is okay. You know, VCs have a lot of patience, right? We in One Crowd have been investing in pre-seed companies, right from IIT incubation or ISC incubation. We have been investing in those companies, and I'm very happy to say these companies are now, after 4, 5, 6, 7 years, are now in a stage now where they are in a phase where they can tap a Series A thing and they are profitable or on the right track. So I think time frame is not an issue as long as the startup is on the right track. And yes, because of public-private partnership, because there are two stakeholders or shareholders, obviously the profits will get distributed, but which is perfectly fine. It's better for a startup or an entity to have profits, even though 50% of the profits, rather than a startup going down the drain and not making any profits at all and sinking the investor money, right? So I think that's okay. And we have seen instances of very, very successful public-private enterprises in other countries, right? I'm sure we can learn a lot from there, because what is required, especially in a space like sanitation, which is not so-called high-tough space like an edtech or a fintech or whatever, is availability of capital and the various stakeholders' willingness to help them and trust them and have a little faith in them, right? I think that partnership with the government organizations will let them a little bit of firepower to attract resources. When I say resources, it need not be just the financial resources, right? But, you know, maybe a little bit of regulatory support, maybe a little bit of admin support, maybe guidance in this thing, or maybe exposure to this, which on a standalone basis, maybe the startup may not be able to get, right? So I think it will be a very, very welcome step if more and more PPP enterprises step into this field. I guess because the government by itself does not have the wherewithal to innovate, right? There's a lot of inertia there. So government by itself will continue to do what it's doing for donkey's years, and which we all know is not the best situation to be in, right? To bring innovation, to bring entrepreneurship, to bring in a little bit of risk-taking, we need private players to step in. So when we combine the two in the right way, right, without government trying to slow down the agility of the private player or vice versa, if we capitalize or put together strengths of both these two institutions, I think we can get wonderful results out of such initiatives, as we have seen in other countries as well. So yeah, I think PPP initiatives are most welcome. It will give a lot of comfort, not just to the investors, but even, let's say, besides like a VC funding or equity funding, it's good for such startups to get, let's say, debt funding from banks. And the banks would be very, and I've been a banker for 25 years, so I know bankers will derive a lot of comfort if they get a little bit of guarantee or some kind of support from the government body, and then they're willing to give capital. Because initially that's what the startup wants, right? Startup wants a lot of capital, and if the capital is made available at the right time, I think the startup can really scale up as long as they have a good idea in place.
Okay, thank you. In this case, we would want the startups to go down the drain, figuratively speaking. Yeah. Okay, so Avinash, what schemes are available for sanitation workers to improve their conditions of working?
Yeah, I think I would like to respond to that in two ways. One is the schemes, right? So one is you have a central government set of schemes. Part of it for the manual scavengers, for example, the PMSR Act is an act called the Prohibition of Employment of Manual Scavenging, and their Rehabilitation Act. So under that scheme, there are two kinds of scheme. One is called the Self-Employment Rehabilitation of Manual Scavengers Scheme, and another is called the Swachhata Udyami Yojana, right? So under these two broad schemes, they are able to access finance at subsidized interest rates and with capital subsidies. This is if sanitation workers decide to go the entrepreneurial way, access this capital, and be able to then drive their livelihood through some entrepreneurial form. Apart from this, every state or many states, maybe not every state, many states have their own combination of a Safai Karmachari Commission or a Safai Karmachari Finance Development Corporation. These kind of institutions exist. For example, in Karnataka, it's called the Karnataka State Safai Karmachari Finance Development Corporation. And they, at the state level, institute their own schemes. And this could be money coming from the state government. So this is another additional thing of money. Now, the issue with any of these schemes is that they are well-intentioned, they are designed, but the imagination of how they will actually reach the sanitation worker, that bit is completely missing. There's absolutely no investment on a mechanism to ensure that it actually reaches the sanitation worker, and it does that. Now, another part of the answer to your question is the agency of the sanitation workers themselves, especially the formal sanitation workers. So we work, for example, with a community-based organization called Tamate, and they have convened something called the Safai Karmachari Kawal Samiti, which is a network of all kinds of sanitation workers in the state. They have both formal and informal sanitation workers. Now, they, while they formally are not a union, they are able to play the role of a union and assert with the state the rights of sanitation workers. In fact, their fight right now is simply to assert the rights that the law says it already exists. It's not even they are creating, just to get the governments to implement, right? So, I think it's very important to understand that while you have a larger thing of sanitation and you could have public-private partnerships to run treatment systems, and you have different components of the sanitation system. If we look at the core workforce and the skill of sanitation workers, most sanitation workers' constant demand with the government is to say, listen, avoid contracting. Because contracting actually displaces us. Contracting actually gets us to be at the receiving end of a raw deal. That in the process of contracting and subcontracting, the responsibilities of ensuring rights gets lost. Therefore, many of the fights of these networks and unions is to say that if you're talking about sanitation work which is perennial, you have to sweep the roads every day, you have to take out the kachara every day, you have to take it to the landfill, you have to clean the manholes every day. These set of sanitation workers make them permanent employees. The Karnataka Municipal Act, or typically any state municipal act, actually says that they have to be employed directly by the state. So here is a tension between a public-private imagination of things and a human rights imagination of things. We should remember that, right? So I'll stop there.
No, interesting to learn. But how sustainability of startups, I'm coming to startups from again, through adoption by sanitation workers and of the startups products by these workers. I'm not talking about the community adopting the solution. I'm saying how open are these people to adopting solutions?
There's a lot of investment necessary. Let's be very clear about it. And I think if we look at technologies at the interface between the physical waste and the worker, right? That interface. I am not convinced that a venture capital or full commercial capital is the appropriate financial tool. That here you will need forms of blended capital. You will need forms of development capital coming from governance. You will need forms of philanthropy coming from philanthropists. You will need, that can be blended with forms of commercial capital. Like for example, there is a startup in Chennai called Solinos, Homosep. I don't mean to take names, but I want to exemplify, which helps emptying of pits, and thing. Now, if that product has to get used by sanitation workers on the ground, in what model of ownership will it be used is a big question. One is the municipal procurement way, right? In which case then, as you point out, the government is the largest buyer. And sustainability means then that enterprises will be pushed towards essentially going the tender way, the political economy whose traps we already understand. But if we do go the public-private kind of partnership way, as I said, the tensions with the imaginations of sanitation workers themselves enter the picture, and there's a lot of negotiation, trust building to happen. I think where opportunities lie is if we look at Swachh Bharat Mission and the new things that are emerging, fecal sludge treatment plants, the new policies that are emerging. In these imaginations, how do we look at sanitation workers as also owners and operators of assets themselves? So how do we look at the sanitation workers themselves as clients, right? And then what happens is then startups will need to then look at the issue of consumer education, will need to look at the issue of consumer finance, all these, like how if we trace it back, in the initial days of say solar in this country, people had to be taught what solar is. Banks had to start creating loans for solar. We go back to those kind of problems, right? But I don't think right now there's, except for a few, there's enough of confidence in looking at the sanitation workforce as your end client. Somehow they are there, but the client is the government. But the client is, as you say, a private company which is procuring and running the thing. Having said that, the opportunities, as I say, is in employment, which is ethical employment. But when we get into ethical employment, safety and social security, etc., does that cost directly translate to return on investment? It's a little bit of in the given context of India, it's a little bit of a stretch to make that kind of an argument.
So, I'm glad you mentioned Solinas. One of the models that they are following is get CSR to fund the equipment and give it to the Safai Karmachari worker to operate. And it is theirs in the long term to keep and operate, and they can earn a living by, deploying it in various situations or various regions. But again, then the problem of return on investment goes completely down the drain. Yeah, so that could be a model for some startups, maybe initially, or maybe to overcome certain segments of dangerous, unsafe working conditions.
Absolutely, and there's also a need for a lot of startups in innovating around personal protective gear, right? I mean, the personal protective gear in this country is driven by the industry, from the industrial hazard country, not from the sanitation, thing. But as I said, I think here blended finance is the way to go. Purely commercial finance, I don't think will work.
Okay, point taken. Any comments on that?
No, I kind of tend to agree with him because initial years of a startup is where they need maximum support. And the financing which a VC person like us or anybody can provide is limited to some extent, right? So if the startup is able to get some grants from government or support from these, let's say Bill Gates or whatever, right? I mean, then it just provides them a little bit of cushion to do what they want to do at their pace instead of always looking over the shoulder and saying, okay, my bank balance is down to this and my bank balance is down to this. So yes, if a startup is able to attract multiple sources of funding, and which need not be equity, because an equity then needs dilution and then the stake of the founders comes down. That is the best way if it can happen, and preferably long tenor funding, right? So these grants and all these things, the person doesn't have to worry about returning that or accruing interest on that. So that always is a good situation to be in.
Okay, so final question for you, Kalpana. Advice for young startups and entrepreneurs to effectively pitch to a VC or a angel.
I guess, so when you're marketing something, you need to see who your target market is and what they are looking for. It's just that whoever you're pitching to, you should first understand what VC funds are all about and what they are looking for, right? Once you understand what they're looking for, what appeals to them, and the similar side, what absolutely does not appeal to them, then you can position your pitch. So, what does a VC fund want? Simple answer, returns, right? But that's a simple answer. And as I said, the VC people are very patient because we are used to investing. We ourselves in One Crowd, we have been the first institutional investor in many of the startups, right? Even before somebody else came with the money, we have cut out the first check. And why we cut out the first check was the quality of the entrepreneur that we saw, right? Because things keep changing, right? In life, things change. In a startup journey, definitely things change every month or every quarter or everything. We are willing to accept the changes, right? Because that's life. But when we are looking at an entrepreneur, first of all, the entrepreneur quality. When I say quality, what is the technical expertise? Because we are talking about tech. What is the knowledge? Whether the person actually understands the complexities of the situation, does not understand. And then after entrepreneur, then the quality of the solution. So for us, the quality of the entrepreneur is the most important thing, because if the entrepreneur is good, the person will be able to navigate whatever ups and downs comes, as long as the person is working with full sincerity and dedication to a particular cause. Then of course, the quality of the technology. So from an elevator pitch perspective, I think what an entrepreneur should always try to do is bring out the differentiator, right? Bring out the differentiator which he or she has to offer to whatever cause they're working on, and the differentiator of technology. What definitely an entrepreneur should not kind of talk, not like, but the thing is, many entrepreneurs make that thing of, oh, the market is so big and the demand is so big and that's why we are going to be successful and all that. It doesn't work that way, right? We have seen many sectors whereas there is demand, but then we do not know how to tap into the demand in a profitable manner, right? So just because there is a demand for something does not guarantee at all that the startup will be a success. What would differentiate a startup, a successful startup, and not so successful? And of course, there are various factors, right? Many things can happen, but leaving aside all those external factors, is just basically the focus and the clarity of thought and the agility to keep adapting to whatever changes which might come along the way, which basically means to be prepared for the worst in some sense, right? I mean, and again, coming from a banking thing here, we make optimistic scenario, pessimistic scenario, and realistic scenario kind of thing. I think we have heard so many times an entrepreneur saying, oh, but I thought this will happen, or but I thought that government will make this policy change, or I thought the user behavior will change, and but it has not changed, so now, so it's important for somebody to think through, and if all goes well, it's very good, but if things do not work, what is the backup plan which we have, and how agile we are to change the way we are designing that particular solution or marketing that particular solution, or so basically combination, the entrepreneur quality, the quality of the tech, how different it is, how defendable IP you're gonna get, or are you one of those Me Too players, or are you already late in the game and you're trying to replicate what somebody has already done. And then what is your agility quotient, as in how soon you can change your approach or your tech or your mindset in case there is any change, either in terms of regulations or in terms of competition or in terms of whatever, you're able to adapt. So whenever you're talking to a VC fund, try to bring across those points, right? Rather than talking about, oh, the market is big and nobody's done a solution, I'm just trying to solution, so I'm bound to be successful kind of thing. And yeah, that's broadly it. Never ever talk about valuations and stuff like that, because I've heard many entrepreneurs saying, oh, okay, I'm gonna do this, so as of now valuation is this, but don't worry, in 5 years I will be valued at this, and you will get 10 times return. And we have seen that written in the deck when the entrepreneur is saying that, look, I'm valued at this now, and after 5 years I'll be valued at this, so you will get an exit of this many times. So which is like, even a VC fund doesn't know what valuation will be after 4 years, 5 years. That's in nobody's control. That's a very, very market-driven thing. And yes, VCs would like to get return and exit, but I think what somehow gives us a lot of satisfaction also is to support people who are trying to bring about a change in this world and change for the better, right? And yes, there are social impact focused funds, but I think all of us who are not like social impact so-called funds, we also would like to support enterprises who are trying to do something good to the society and to the environment, as long as they have clarity of thought and they know how to tread that path in a profitable manner. Yeah, so long answer. Elevator pitch has to be 5 minutes, but basically, I just wanted to say just focus on your differentiator, yours as an entrepreneur, yours as a team, yours as a technology, and yours ability to think through end to end how as it will work. We have seen many entrepreneurs who are just tech guys, right? They don't know anything about marketing, they don't know anything about finance, which is okay. A person cannot be a superman or a superhuman being, but if you have at least mentors or other team members or somebody whom you can lean on, who can help you and guide you on the marketing front and the finance front, it gives a lot of comfort, because eventually that will matter, right? Once your product is ready, you have done your trial test, you have this thing. Now the next challenge is to how do we now sell it to multiple users, and how do we actually make it a profitable enterprise. So some kind of, it can be a mentor, it can be an advisor, it can be a guide, it can be a team member, but who would have thought through about those things also, and not just that, yeah, I'm going to develop this product. Because yes, you develop the product, then what happens? So a little bit of end-to-end thinking through, if you can give a little comfort to the VC or any investor for that matter, that I think will give a lot of comfort to whoever is listening to you.
Great to know your thoughts. We keep trying to educate our startups in this direction, but when they hear it from you, it's ratified that what we've been trying to say all these days is valid. So last point, Avinash, anything that you would like to add as the problem statements that you would like to see the light of day?
Oh, that's too open a canvas. That
Okay, anything that comes to the top of the mind. Top of the mind. You said PPE was one.
Yeah.
And
I would.
else?
Yeah, so I would. So to put the interface between waste, the physical forms of waste, and the sanitation worker, right? I think there are so many problem definitions to be evolved there, even by looking at it, because there are so many different streams of waste. There are so many different kinds of hazards. So I think too little focus has been given on that interface. That interface is something, and to put the sanitation worker as your client, right? To think sanitation worker centric. That would be a thing that one would urge, new business ideas to emerge for.
Okay. So the floor is open for questions. Anybody? Sure.
So this is for Kalpana, and perhaps before I ask my question, I would like to state that sanitation economy is close to $100 billion, so that should be music to your ears as an investor. But when we were setting up this global sanitation center of excellence, what was on our mind was one word, which is scale.
Scale, yeah.
And if you look at Western countries, they have spawned large corporations. Veolia is an example, Suez is an example, Cambi is an example. All of these have certain technical platforms and certain service delivery approaches. And they are billion-dollar business, B2B, some of them are B2C as well. And in India, I would say, there was somebody from VA Tech Vabag this morning here, as well as Ion Exchange. They are in that process of becoming big. Now, on the other hand, India has close to 90,000 startups. And the good thing about this is many of these are addressing these kind of challenges. Yeah. I think that there may be less startups in the beauty space and more startups in waste management space, which is good for India. So in terms of the foundation of entrepreneurs who are looking to address these problems, we have them. Yeah. What is it that is we are lacking? This is the question. What is it that we are lacking that we are not able to make these mega corps out of this thing, despite having a population of 1.3 billion people, massive urbanization and everything? The opportunities are there, but we are not able to make mega corporations out of our startups.
Yeah. So, I guess on a very, very broad level, and pardon me, I'm just kind of moving away from sanitation for the time being. I know your question was, I think it's just, and that's why I focused on the fact that besides tech, you should know your go-to-market strategy. How do you market to your stakeholders? How do you convince them? And many of the startups where we have seen across industries, again, I'm not restricting myself to sanitation, I think that's where somehow they lack. From tech, they will put their heart and soul and blood and sweat and whatever they have to put and make a good product, right? But when it comes to convincing the buyers to buy their products, somehow there is a lot of things they can do, right, in a very proactive manner. And especially coming to the sanitation projects, right, because there is an upfront cost involved, there's an O&M required, there is a little bit of mindset which the person might have to change. There's a whole lot of softer factors also involved. And that's where if you don't put enough energies, then you're not able to scale up. Okay, 2-3 trial projects you will do here and there, and you will feel vindicated that yes, my product is actually good and all that. But there's a lot of effort which needs to be spread, to be made to spread the differentiators of your solution, right? You can call it marketing expense or it can be whatever, but that is also a necessity to make take your product to the next level, right? And that's where most of the startups kind of are. Some startups go overboard and they're like this marketing, this advertising, this, and they run out of money. Some are like, no, my solution is good. I'm convinced people will come and buy my solution. These are two extremes. We have to figure out that yes, resources are constrained at certain point of evolution of a startup, certain things are more important. Yes, initially R&D is important. We need to ensure that technologically we are the best at this point of time. But once our product is ready, or maybe before our product is ready, we should just be prepared to quickly chart out who are our stakeholders, whom we have to map, who we need to pull the string to get this contract. I mean, pull the string not in a wrong way, please, but in the right way, right? Who's the decision maker? Those are the things which, and from a market, obviously, people say that Americans are good marketeers, and that's why they have managed to sell a sugar-filled syrup to the entire world and made a success out of it. Maybe that is also right. So I think some good things we have to learn from the so-called good marketeers. And if you develop really something good, don't be humble about it, don't be shy about it, just go out in the world and scream at the top of your voices, saying that, hey, I've developed this and I'm the best and I can do this and I can save so many dollars. And coming to this dollars point, many people are not able to actually quantify. Look, when somebody buys something, he will not buy just because you have spent 5 years doing R&D on that product, right? It's good that you did that. So yeah, I appreciate that, I respect that. But then what is it adding value to me? Are you able to save cost for me? How good you are? Now, if you're not able to quantify that to the end user, how do you expect users to come running to you? So a lot of effort needs to go in preparing what exact value you're adding to the customer, right? And you have to be very, very precise in terms of dollars, in terms of health, in terms of softer issues like labor dignity and all that. Whatever you can quantify, please quantify. Don't be modest about it. Sometimes we assume people will understand what your solution is going to do, but people do not understand because everybody has their own restricted view of things, right? If you go to a resident association guy, he has his budget, he doesn't want to exceed that budget. How will he convince other people to change his existing system to the new system or whatever it is, right? So understanding who your various stakeholders are, who the decision makers are, what will make sense to them, quantify it to whatever extent you can, make a proper business case. Because once you've done the tech thing, then you're a businessman, right? So you need to just very seamlessly keep shifting yourself between a tech person, a businessman, a tech person, a businessman and all that. Tech to ensure that your tech is always ahead of the curve and you just don't develop something and just sit back on it and not let it evolve because things will keep evolving, right? Something which is good now will not be good after 4-5 years. And as a businessman, how do I sell it? How do I sell it? How do I sell it? And pricing comes into this. So a whole lot of things come into the picture, and that's where I have seen many of the startups kind of faltering. Eventually they find the way, but initially those crucial couple of years, once they're ready with the product, they really struggle. Whom do we sell? How do we sell? How do we price it? And all that kind of stuff. And how do we sell it without spending a bomb on marketing expense and all that. So that's why I'm saying thinking through. All this thinking through has to happen. When you're developing your product, some amount of thinking through has to happen then, because once your product is ready and then you're struggling to figure out whom do I go and talk and how do I convince, who's the decision maker and all that, then you just lose time. So you focus on your tech, but you please focus that end objective, especially if you want external investors to come in. If you're able to bootstrap and do end-to-end throughout your life, please go ahead the way you want to do it. But if you want external investors to come in, right, who will give you money and expect some return after 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever number of years that situation warrants, you have to ensure that your solutions get sold and it gets appreciated in the market and you're able to get the premium which it deserves after you having put in so much effort over the so many years.
Nimish, can I react to that question? Because I often wonder if you compare, because you took Veolia and Suez as examples, if you look at European history and somewhere if you look at sanitation as a response to the discovery of the germ theory in the late 1800s, right? And somewhere that the European response to that was also at scale at that point of time, historically, right? It was recognized as something that governments need to do at the scale of the nation, even in the late 1800s, once those theories came. Whereas sanitation technology became an import in the colonial times to India. And it comes back to the opening comments for me, that I made, that Indian social history always allowed public health to be siloed into the health of this caste or that caste, or we were too ghettoized and we were too fragmented as society to have an idea of public health which cut across caste lines, right? And so this absence of, so Nehru said the dams are the temples of modern India. He didn't say that large sanitation corporations are the, large sanitation corporations, even a nationalized version of it, was not in the imagination of the earlier socialist industrialized India imaginations. And perhaps it's because of our social history and that public health was never understood in the real public sense of it. I mean, that would be my answer to your question.
Yeah, I think you're right, because even in institution-wise, there is not a single institute until now which was dedicated to sanitation. It was all considered under public health, where water became the biggest beneficiary. So I have heard IAS officers say that whenever my politician goes to the constituency, people ask for water, they don't ask for sanitation. So for 75 years, water took precedence over sanitation. And they, of course, have only so much of a budget, right? So they will put what the people demand, and they gave water and disowned sanitation in some sense. So.
And people didn't demand sanitation because there was always someone to pick up the kachara and go.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
and have clear visions and think through in order to come up with a solution that can be pitched to an investor.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you to both TechIn and this whole initiative, the Global Center for Sanitation Excellence. I look forward to doing a lot of work with all of you all.
Sure.
Thank you.
I would like to thank everyone who are on the dais for sharing their valuable time and knowledge with us here today. I request Dr. Nimish Shah to hand over the mementos to the panelists. Sir. Yes. Mr. Avinash Krishnamurthy, please.
Now, present here with us today are a set of teams who were selected competitively from all the applications that we received, and they will be showcasing their ideas and solutions in the domain of sanitation. I hope all are excited and open to hear new ideas from these young talents. And with this, let us begin the idea pitch event. And I would like to inform you that you will be having a total of 8 minutes for presentation, and they will be judged by the jury and get comments also. I think you have given the necessary data to the technical team, and it's over to you.
So, very good afternoon to all. I hope you all had your dinner. So, in this drowsy afternoon, I don't want to make you all sleep, and we would make our best to make our PPT to a better manner. So, let me introduce my team. Okay, sir. So, we are from MEPCO Schlank Engineering College, and myself, Sri Ganesh, and he is Sanjit, and he is Sakti Balan, and he is Chandramouli. So, our idea of this project is to implement the smart toilets in public places. We all know that in the public place, the toilets are not well sanitized and not in the hygienic manner. So, if the toilets are not in the hygienic manner, so that lot of peoples with low hygiene are easily get affected and suffer from many diseases like diarrhea and some other pathogen diseases. So our motive is to not get satisfied with a single customer or people, but our idea or motive is to implement to all the satisfaction is our first priority. So we have many technicals involved in this idea, and my friend would be explain it in a better manner, like sensors and techniques used in this idea.
Check.
Don't be very fluent with the pedestal, so I am using the hand mic. Sorry. Okay. Toilets and bathroom are very important thing in human life and public. We can't just skip them, right? It is a necessary one for daily. And people are skipping using public toilets. I asked while seeing this most of the topics, I selected this topic, and when I asked my mother, can you tell any disadvantage or feedback that you face on using public toilet? Her reply was that I didn't never use public toilets, so I was very shocked. This how can it be possible? There are many public toilets in each and every area, important streets, right? But we don't use them because we think it is unhygienic and not sanitized properly. We can't blame the government. We are the one who make this unsanitized and unhygienic. It is our responsibility to keep them clean and sanitized properly, right? So this is our main concept is not implementing it automatically, rather to teaching them to make it implement to how to keep it sanitized well by ourselves. This is our main concept of this smart toilet. So these are the complications faced by our public toilets. Diarrhea problems are not well maintained and poor sanitized. The solution of our smart toilet is that this makes it clean its own toilet by itself by the method of we use many Arduino boards and machine to machine communication systems in this toilet. It will be very helpful and it will make the users to clean the toilet itself by the following methods, and I will show it right now. So how does it work? How does the smart toilet work? Whenever the users enter the smart toilet, he will lock the door. The door contains of touch sensor or infrared sensor which can read the distance between the door and the foot. So it can recognize that the user has entered the toilet and locked the door. This will be sent to the Arduino board, which is connected to the mode MCU. This mode MCU is used for machine to machine communication by Wi-Fi mean. So whenever the user enters the door and locks the door, a 12-volt door lock will lock itself inside the toilet. So after he uses the toilet, he must do two things to unlock the door so that only he can come out of the toilet. What are them are, he must flush the toilet first. So it will be well sanitized and very hygienic, right? So other users, next users can use it very neatly. So he must flush the toilet whenever he enters the door. So this can be recognized by touch sensor which is implemented in the toilet. Whenever he flushes, the mode MCU which is attached to this touch sensor will send the message to the Arduino board. The Arduino board will be integrated to the door. After that, this is step 1, the process over. Next, he must do the step 2 for unlock the door. That is what he must hand wash that. That can be used by ultraviolet radiation reader, or it can be used by touch sensor or wet sensors. Whenever after that, while he washes the hands, it will send a message to the Arduino board and it will give the key to unlock the door, which means it unlocks the door for him and he can leave the toilet. This is the main idea of our smart toilet. We can also implement Yeah, sprinkler cleaning method. This can be very helpful. We don't need any manual cleaner or mandatory for it. We can set a time. For example, if a working hour of a theater is 1 o'clock means this cleaning sprinklers will automatically turn on at 2 o'clock and sprinkles that disinfectant preloaded to the sprinklers. It will sprinkle at the rate of very fast so that every dirt particles from this toilet will be removed on the walls. Before doing that, it will also check the door is locked or inside. It will locks the door automatically through inside and it will sprinkles the disinfectant and odor agents to inside the toilet. This can be used by automatic sprinklers inside the toilet, so we don't need any mandatory cleaners for it. We can also use smell detectors. These smell detectors can identify that the odor of the toilet is very awful or fusty, so that it can also spray some fragrant substances or something like that. This is how the smart toilet is used. We thus need a very 5,000 amount is very needed for this building this whole smart toilet. We can install it in every smart toilet present now. We just need to upgrade or just restore. We don't need to build a new smart toilet. This is the highlight point of this project. And it is cost efficient. We need just touch sensor, wet sensors, and ultraviolet sensor, and a mode MCU and Arduino board. These all, and a Wi-Fi. These all are enough for this smart toilet to install. Yeah, this is called as mode MCU. This will be very helpful for Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi communication, which is, for example, this is a touch sensor and this is an Arduino board. This chip connects to the Wi-Fi and it can be helped to transmit the message to the touch sensor to the Arduino board. So it can be transmitted wirelessly. It is very cost efficient that I told it only required 5,000 rupees to install in a already present toilet. Highly good sanitized and well hygienic maintained. Does not need required for cleaning. Uses simple and easily available instruments. Can be implemented easily in all areas. So the main focus of our customers are that the highly gathering spots like malls, hotels, colleges, schools, etc., which are running profitably, so that these smart toilets can be installed in that areas, which can give a happy response from the customers, and it is cost efficient. We don't need to be cleaning it every time, and it will be very positive response from the customers. Yeah, our business plan, we have planned to just implement this smart toilet in our college right now. After getting any feedbacks from our students and professors, we are going to do some alterations in these smart toilets, and we are going to bring more facilities inside it, and then we will be implementing to our village cities nearby through our NSS camp, and we will bring it to a higher level with the help of incubation center in our college. Thank you. Yeah.
Hand wash in public toilet is usually a common hand wash. Hello.
What's up?
So in public toilets usually, you have a toilet booth.
Yeah, it will be outside.
And the hand wash will be outside.
Yeah.
But I like the idea very much. At least with the flush and opening the door,
Yeah.
it's something to think about.
Yeah, most of that we can make it automatically, but we must bring the practice of
Hand wash
and flushing by manual, so that it will be, they can go wherever it is not automatic, they'll do that regularly, right? So this is our idea. We can.
This can also be useful in the context of, restaurants.
Yeah,
Because what happens in restaurants, you have public user coming in from outside and using it, and they generally leave the toilet dirty. But within restaurants, you also have the hand wash station inside the booth itself. So that's something you can think about.
Yeah, hygienic is that keeping one's itself clean and keeping their place also clean.
Yeah,
So,
right.
yeah, we must do it without fail, right? So that this is our concept, and we can, that wash station can be just with 2,000 rupees, and we can install them inside public toilets also, right?
Yeah.
See, the cost of
Plumbing, that much.
this project is 5,000.
No, 5,000.
Affordability, how
Uh,
the affordability?
That is, I am telling.
Actually, you are taking that to the village.
Yeah.
So how can you do that? How that it will be in a usable form?
No, no.
No,
It is
only for
5,000
public,
means
public
is-
places.
it is upgradable. I mean, already built toilets will be, public toilets will be present in these villages, no, sir. We can upgrade them with 5,000 rupees to the smart toilet by installing these features in them. For building also, it will be normal toilet price plus 5,000. That's it.
So I am end user. If I pay 5,000 rupees, what is the failure rate? MTBF, mean time between the failure. How long will it take? What is it? Can you tell?
Yeah, we didn't still implement them to. We are in a
So
starting
somebody,
stage.
the end user may ask this kind of questions.
Yeah.
You should be able to answer those questions.
Yeah.
Okay?
I think also when you are going to implement this in your college, when you do it, what is the outcome you are expecting? Like when you say that this has improved, what is the metric of improvement that you are going to study?
Yeah. Now I ask many feedbacks from our college students. They are telling that the bathroom is not flushed properly in our hostels and in colleges, and it is very tidy. They feel awkward to use them. Mainly the Western toilets present in our college. So after implementing them, I'll again take a survey with maximum students present in our college, and of course they can feel a difference before and right.
Yeah, so see, you are an engineering student, right?
Yeah.
Be focused on math and quantity. So, for example, when your people are telling you qualitatively that, you know, toilets are dirty, quantify it that, okay, during the week, how many times the toilet was found dirty?
Yeah.
Which toilet? How many number of toilet booths were found dirty? What was the issue? Give some kind of a semi-quantitative rating for that, whether it was very dirty, acceptable. So you make a very proper objective evaluation of current status. Then when you implement your solution, you do another objective evaluation. Then you can, with that, when you go to say a VC or somebody, then they know that your solution is working. Otherwise, you are just taking qualitative interviews and your friends will say that, yeah, the toilet is clean now, because you tell them to tell that, you know.
Sure.
That's not your intent, I understand, but you have to make that data very, very robust. Yeah. Once you are in sanitation, don't forget your engineering.
So I'll add to that. First find out, is it dirty because somebody didn't flush, or because it's dirty, the floor is dirty, something is sticking and needs a brush or needs some harpic or acid or something else. What is the dirtiness because of? If it's just flush, your system will work. But if it is not just the flush, if it is something else, or the floor is left dirty because they didn't use the commode but they used the floor, to do their job, then everything fails.
Or the water
right?
was not there. That also can be a problem.
Exactly. Yeah. Very often water is not there or the flush is not working at all, right? So those kind of things you need to. But what is your idea on the? You said you're spraying something for disinfection. What are you spraying?
Like phenol, like that aromatic substances and this. Yeah, like that. We can spray.
What disinfectant?
Like Dettol.
I mean, you
need to find out what to spray.
He's saying you can spray any disinfectant.
Yeah,
Your spraying mechanism is what.
Okay. So you need to do some research on what disinfectant to spray and what is the particle size you spray. because you don't want to leave the floor slippery and wet at the end of the day. If I spray Dettol and leave it and in big blobs, I can slip and fall, which is not a good idea, right? So you'll have to figure that out.
Disinfect the toilet seat or the full toilet?
Full toilet. It will spray very fastly disinfected first, and again it will spray normal water or warm water very fastly.
But then it will be wet, no?
So that's what you need to find out, what to spray and how to spray. What is the particle size by which you spray? Because there are ways of spraying in such a way. Particle size is very small and it is not slippery, but it still disinfects. You should.
See, always relate to the toilet heating. You have to relate it to the toilet heating.
Yeah, but it sprays only when the toilet is not in use.
Correct.
But
Correct.
next user will come, no? That time it should not be wet.
Yeah.
There will be a gap of 4 hours or 3 hours, sir.
How?
When the restaurant close or theaters close, after that time.
Oh, okay. End of the
Yeah,
day.
end of
They are
the
talking
day.
end of the
Okay, end of the day.
Not every use.
Not every use.
No.
Each and every.
Every 2 hours,
scheduling.
if it's a heavy
Traffic,
college or
yeah.
a school, you will need disinfection every 2 hours or something.
Yeah.
Or after tea break, after lunch break. So you have to think through that a bit. Yeah.
Can I add something to this? Actually, government says 135 liter per day per person, it is good. But if you can add in this, like how much time in a day flush is being used. And if the flush quantity is suppose 20 liters, so how much water is being consumed in one toilet, that will give you more realistic data, which has like data is a new oil. That data can be used for further studies and research. So that is just one aspect you can add. And you said 5,000 rupees cost. So that 5,000 rupees cost is in bulk you are calculating, or right now for making one single?
For single toilet.
Okay, so when you will make it in a bulk, it will be
Reduced.
reduced by
It will be
at
reduced.
least 40%.
Yeah, it will be reduced.
But you have also just made, that is your cost of acquiring that.
Yeah, just no. The cost of acquired material will be just 3,000 or 2,500, something like that, sir.
What is the margin is asking?
We can.
In the project, your cost will be there.
The cost will be just 3,000 or 2,500 for all equipments present in this toilet.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So MEPCO is Madurai, right?
We actually traveled 500 kilometers for just today, one evening.
You could have come to Coimbatore. We were there last week. Anyway.
Good, you can
Okay,
see.
good.
Thank you everyone for the valuable comments, questions and every suggestions you have given. And I think that the team has received good ideas and all, which will be useful for in future also. Now I would like to tell that we will be displaying a video which shows the works and progress of Tekin, as well as some of the details regarding the teams which we are already being doing the incubation and all. Now going directly through the video.
Globally, 4.2 billion use unsafe sanitation facilities, which is more than half of the world. Nearly 2 billion defecate in the open. Even in a country like the United States of America, there are more than 500,000 homeless people and more defecating women. In countries where open defecation is prevalent, public health is at stake, because open defecation enables transmission of infectious diseases via the fecal-oral route. Without proper sanitation facilities, waste from infected individuals can contaminate a community's land and water, increasing the risk of infection for other individuals. The problem does not stop here. Open defecation places women and girls in danger. It also causes loss in productivity and valuable time that can be spent on productive tasks. When there is no toilet in school, children are often going home to use the toilet or defecating on the school grounds. Girls are often absent from school during menstrual periods. Even if toilets are built Sanitation for all. Let's now look at how this technology works. Using these solutions, we have managed to create success stories. Nirgand also graduated as one of the 12 startups selected globally by NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center for their Milestone Maker program. Ashish Mehrotra, the CEO, represented Nirgand in the program. Nirgand and Ashish appeared on the NASDAQ wall in Times Square, New York.
Welcome to Team in Classic. We participated in Samastha 2.0 conducted by IIT Palakkad and Global Sanitization Center of Excellence, and we got a golden chance to get pre-incubated in Tekin. We would like to take this opportunity to thank CEO Anuradha ma'am and all other Tekin staff who are very helpful in making of our.
Welcome to Team in Classic. We are developing a product which can provide safe and comfortable toilet experience. We have developed 6 prototypes.
So this is hydraulic seat riser for Indian toilet, so that the old age people can very easily rise there by using this hydraulic setup. And this is a specially made design with an elevated foot position for Western toilet with a handle. And this is again an elevated foot position, giving the best Indian squatting position for Western toilets. And this is a setup which in the old age people can very easily wash without any external support, and it gives a very good balanced condition. And this is for the people who have got post surgery without wetting their leg, they can use the toilet. And this is for raised toilet, even for kids they can use this Indian squatting position.
I present to you Great Eagle Tech that develops autonomous drones for boosting construction site productivity and safety. With an intense secondary research and over 70 interviews with potential customers, we recognized various pain and gain points at construction site that can be solved via drones. To put the specifications of a drone in a shell, it's capable of flying approximately a kilometer in one charge with a duration of 20 to 25 minutes, carrying about a kg of payload and flying up to a safe height of 60 meters with level 2 autonomy. You can see helmet, excavator, fire, and multiple object detections for site survey along with night testing of the drone in this video. The features that we've developed can be spread across industries to solve major safety and productivity management issues on site. That's a short piece about Great Eagle Tech with my deepest appreciations for your kind attention. I thank you. Have an amazing day.
Hello, I am Aditya Majumdar, founder of startup Pragati Tech, and we are currently developing an AI-based smart robot for healthcare sector. And we recently finished our first phase of incubation undertaking and move forward for the second phase. And in this 1 year journey, we have finished our MVP as well as we have done some initial testing in our robot. And throughout this journey, Tekin has support in various ways in the form of technical as well as in business mentoring support. And I especially want to thank Ms. Anuradha Shankar, CEO at Tekin at IIT Palakkad, and our technical mentor Dr. Shantakumar Mohan. They guide us in different ways and give us the path to go forward. And we are looking forward to work with Tekin in future forwards. Thank you.
Hi, we are from Pragati Tech. Our vision is to provide an easy and efficient way of sanitization using smart robots. Let's have a look at our MVP model we have developed. Coming to the features, we have UV disinfection with 254 nanometer wavelength for air and contact surface disinfection. Along with that, we also have a dry misting system for sanitization with a particle size of less than 10 micron. We have tested our robots in hospitals where we got a satisfactory result with 97% bacterial reduction. This is our team. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sunita Dubey, CEO and co-founder of Happy 60 Plus, the holistic elder care platform which provides on-demand help buddies to empower elderly for an independent living and a happy and healthy aging experience from the comfort of their homes. Being part of Tekin has been a great experience for us, especially under the business mentoring of Mr. Murli, who has helped us remain focused on our strategy and fine-tuned our product offering and firmed up our activity plan. And as a result of which, we have accelerated many times and our business has grown many times in the last few months. The technical mentoring, of course, has added great value to our technical platform. And apart from this, Tekin has also provided us with valuable connections with the corporates and hospitals, which has increased our client reach and helped us to bring in more visibility for Happy 60 Plus as an elder care platform. And we are extremely glad that we are part of this acceleration program by Tekin, and it is part of our journey in making Happy 60 Plus as the biggest elder care platform to help the elderly. Thank you so much.
Happy 60 Plus is a holistic healthcare platform which empowers elderly by assisting seniors in their day-to-day tasks for an independent living and an emotionally fulfilled aging experience. We make aging at home easy and comfortable for elderly. Happy 60 Plus AI-enabled tech platform provides on-demand help buddies who are helpers available on hourly basis to accompany, assist, and provide companionship to older population. These services are available at click of a button. The 5 categories of help buddy services are accompany and assist for any outside home visit, whether it's to hospital for regular checkups, doctor visit, bank, bill payments, or any outing. Deliveries and errands to run about for smooth running of any outside housework, whether getting medicines, grocery, getting essentials, repair work, post and courier, or anything else. Car assisted services. Here the driver buddy shall provide car transportation and be the side of the senior to assist him whenever he needs help. This includes pickup from home to safe drop back to their doorstep after the work is done. This is called our Health Car Sarthi service, where the driver is trained to be by the side of elderly, help whenever needed during the service period. Tech enablement. Happy 60 Plus provide training on use of smartphones, how to use various apps for online shopping, bookings, or digital payments, and basic internet knowledge. Companionship buddies are friendly helpers who give company to lonely seniors to talk to them, share conversations over board games or outdoor walks, and help keep loneliness at bay. Home healthcare assistants. We also provide home healthcare assistance buddies like medical caretakers, associate nurses, and nurses to those elderly who need hospital-like clinical support within the comforts of their homes. Happy 60 Plus Health Buddies are selected from a well-defined pool of college students, nursing students, homemakers, and social enthusiasts, and are onboarded after going through our automated 5-step verification and training process. Compassionate, caring, and empathetic, they are reliable and trustworthy. Happy 60 Plus brings together empathy and technology in healthcare. Thus, all these services can be availed through Happy 60 Plus AI-enabled tech platform integrated with WA. Happy 60 Plus fulfills the gap that exists in current elder care to assist in independent living and emotional wellness of elderly. Till now, the focus of elder care services in India has been medical care with focus on physical health care and home health care services. Happy 60 Plus is holistic elder care solution, the one-step solution for all elder care needs. Thank you.
And re-energize everyone. Please note that we will be resuming our program after the tea. So please go to that area by 4 p.m. After 15 minutes, we will be resuming the program. Thank you.
Next, as part of our program, I would like to introduce Dr. Nimish Shah, Managing Director, IAPMO, India, who will be delivering the plenary speech for our program. Dr. Nimish Shah, Managing Director of IAPMO, India, is an accomplished global health and sustainability innovator and business leader. Presently, he is also the chairperson of the expert group on food safety and quality formulated by the Confederation of Indian Industry. He is ex-Unilever with 25 plus years of global experience in multi-domain R&D, technology scale-up, innovation and institution building. Previously, he was also the Managing Director of Toilet Board Coalition India and had contributed through a leading role in building of a vibrant, innovation-led hygiene and sanitation economy in the country through entrepreneurship and private sector engagement. Sir, kindly grace us all with your knowledge.
Thank you, Anuradha. Pleased to be here, and association with GSCOE is something that I will cherish for a long, long time. It's a baby where we all played part in celebrating its birth. So great to be here, and good to see that we have, of course, I think in the morning you have had more people, but there are definitely stakeholders and people interested in sanitation. And within that, I am going to focus today on waste treatment, because I think that's the kind of focus area of this session. And what I see is this entire piece has so much opportunity of making a difference to the world on multiple dimensions, that people here, if they are startups, they will jump and go back to their business, with increased vigor. And if there are people from the social sector, they will realize that it is good to channelize energies to this sector, because this can really make a difference to health, employability as well as environment. So with that, let me talk about waste treatment, and I would like to talk about waste treatment obviously with emphasis on human, but I also do not wish to exclude animal waste, because in India we have a lot of it, and also organic waste, food systems waste, because that is also similar in terms of its biochemical composition. So if you think of it that way, we suddenly expand the opportunities. So these are just pictures of problems and solutions. In the first row, you see various issues, right? A pit or a septic tank has to be, the waste has to be removed from there. You have sanitary workers going inside the manhole, and you have communities where they are staying and the waste is just getting disposed within the same premises. And out there you have various different byproducts of the sanitation industry sector. It can be biogas, it can be biochar that can be used for fuel, briquettes that is, and it could be nutrient for agriculture. And this is, just to capture the context, is we are in that SDG 6, wherein there are the target SDG is about clean water and sanitation, and within that there are sub targets, safe and affordable drinking water, end open defecation and provide access to sanitation and hygiene, improve quality of water and wastewater treatment and reuse, increase water reuse, implement integrated water resources, and protect land and restore water related ecosystems. Now, the reason I wanted to bring all of these up here is that very easy to recognize the water emphasis, and we discussed that during the last panel discussion also, that wastewater is considered but is one of the many things, and water is like being repeated many times. Yeah. So just to think of it, our situation may be different, that we might need to think of sanitation and water on equal measure if not more. Yeah. So I think of sanitation, while I have used clean water and sanitation as the SDG 6 symbol, I think of sanitation in India has had 3 distinct phases. The first one was in the era of Mahatma Gandhi, who talked about sanitation is more important than independence. Yeah. And therefore he talked about hygiene. He called sanitary workers Harijan, and so that it was both from the health as well as from the social equity point of view that Gandhiji's theory impacted sanitation in the country. The next sort of a phase came in the 80s with the Sulabh Shauchalaya, which was to say that we need to ensure that people don't do the dirty work of picking up sanitary waste on their heads and dump it somewhere else. Yeah, it was born out of that social responsibility and equity. And therefore Sulabh also built millions of toilets, by the way. And finally the third phase came in Swachh Bharat, where we created 10 crore sort of toilets. Now I'm going to make some statements, and these really are very well researched statements. I may or may not have the quantifiable aspects to it, because otherwise it becomes a too long and a boring talk. But you have Sadhguru going around and saying that our soils are dying, they are become mineralized, we are losing the organic matter, and there will be a time when it will no longer be able to hold crops because of the loss of organic matter in it. Yeah. But what we are doing is that we are throwing that precious organic matter into the rivers. So the solution we are throwing away and creating another problem, So what might save the soil is being dumped into rivers. %54% of India is living under high to extremely high water stress. Now that itself is a big problem, but if we were to think of different water streams, clean water, grey water, black water, and think about recycling part of it, we might be able to address the rising water stress, at least stem it from becoming worse from where it is. Yeah. And if it is about Jal Jeevan Mission, if it is about water stress, then recycling of grey water and use of treated black water for some aspects, these needs to be considered. Otherwise, this figure is showing 54% today, 2 years later it might show 60% if there is no action taken. Also, it is a fact that sanitation improves health. Yeah, Bill Gates has famously said that during the Swachh Bharat Mission 1, India saved 300,000 lives. Typically before that, 450,000 children were dying under 5, and that death rate was cut by 300,000 children. Yeah. And also the under 5 mortality rate has improved substantially from 1990 to 2019. It is almost 4-fold change. Yeah. Various studies, and this is just an example, that before toilet and after toilets, how many cases and how many complaints of diarrhea you could see. Before toilets it was in 400, 450, and after toilets it became less than 100. So it does change actual situation on the ground, about providing toilets. Therefore, I believe Swachh Bharat is Swasth Bharat. And sanitation improves lives and builds livelihoods. Many examples are coming wherein the typical sanitary worker who goes down into the manhole gets exposed to high risk working conditions, infections wise, chemicals wise, toxic gases wise, can be trained. They are now in that space to say that okay, we are ready to make the change, can be trained into adjacent fields, and they can take help of aids, robos or whatever, and bring about the change. So sanitation can actually improve lives and it can help build livelihoods. Now, we have been as a country talking a lot over the last couple of years of reducing our petroleum bills, yeah, and we are also thinking about adding ethanol to fuels, yeah, 20% ethanol supplementation to fuel, so that we become Atmanirbhar or self-reliant on fuels, and we are going on this electrification of mobility drive, all this, yeah. There are low-lying fruits exactly doing that, yeah. So for example, if we think, and India is an agrarian country, we depend on agriculture for our growth, sustenance, food, everything. So if you see there, you will see that we have been importing lot of nitrogenous fertilizers, and we have been also importing lot of phosphorus based fertilizers, and human waste is a rich resource of both nitrogen and phosphorus. It can also produce biogas, which is another fuel which we import if it was derived from fossil fuel. So sanitation could help reduce fertilizer and fuel imports. An angle I wanted to touch upon is that even for local production of urea, we rely on Haber-Bosch process, wherein we spend tremendous amount of energy emitting lot of gases, greenhouse gases. We trap that nitrogen, we make urea out of it, and then we sell it at subsidy. So it is like a double murder. Yeah, we are releasing huge amount of greenhouse gas, and to the product we are not adding any greenhouse tax, but actually we are selling it at about 2/3 subsidy. So just imagine the issue we are creating for ourselves as a country, wherein the 140 billion peoples and 400 million cattle, nitrogen and nitrogen and phosphorus content could serve immense amount of the demand gap that we have today. I was involved in one research, and I'd like to speak about this also, is that on that chart you see various different estimates of how the greenhouse gas emissions of India is going to only increase, yeah, and at some point it will taper or rather plateau, and then it will come down to net zero in 2070, or that's what we would like to believe, right? So it is keeping on increasing, and in 2030, 2032 it will be again very high then as compared to today. Now here one study we had done was about different types of sanitation models and their respective greenhouse gas potential, emission potential, or fossil fuel and nuclear energy use thing. So what we found is that in terms of global warming potential, the wastewater treatment plant, the ones that we use in cities, we go to a toilet flush and that goes down and it goes to a wastewater treatment plant, has a certain 233 kg equivalent per toilet, yeah, and we build 100 million toilets, 10 crore toilets, okay. So it is in that context this research was done. If you have a twin pit latrine, because everything is under the pit, anaerobic. Anaerobic greenhouse gas potential, if not trapped and just emitted out, is 25 times that of carbon dioxide, yeah, methane. Yeah, therefore you see it almost 5 times higher. Yeah, then you can actually reduce it by source separation. So I don't know whether you all have seen, but there are source separating toilets wherein the solid and the liquid parts go into different compartments. That reduces a little bit, but actually if you have any of these toilets linked to biogas generation, and that biogas generation, the methane is burnt and converted to CO2, then actually the impact is minus 65. Think about a situation where a toilet is not zero emission, it is negative emission. That is possible. Yeah. Similarly, for fossil and nuclear energy use, a biogas based toilet can have a negative minus 97 millijoules of energy that is kind of net released off when you do that. Yeah. So in sanitation there is immense opportunity not only to get value on terms of nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, but also reduce emissions significantly. When we did this study, we estimated that if all these 10 crore toilets were made with biogas, India would stand to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by almost 7%, equivalent to say Germany or a Netherlands kind of country's entire emission. You know, so it can accelerate our journey to net zero significantly. And again, you know, more details about those. So you can see the in terms of construction wise, the the wastewater treatment, twin pit with source separation and source separation plus biogas. So biogas you need to construct that, so it will have higher. But then in terms of operation, you will find that biogas one is actually negative. It's going to the minus side of that vertical scale.
So that the negative emissions assumption there, Nimish, is that all the biogas produced and burnt will be used as fuel and will displace other sources of fuel. It's based on that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, biogas not used, then it's not. It's not. So it will
still be burnt. So you still reduce your emissions. You can flare the biogas even if you don't use it, and make sure it's not methane you're emitting only carbon.
Yeah, yeah. So it is that whether you use it for flaring or whether you use it for cooking, it's the same. I mean, it would still result in that.
What about the biogas generation? I mean, single toilet will become unviable.
No, so that's where innovation challenges are. You know, what is it that you can do, and that's where JCOE comes into picture. Is that what is it you can do for single? And there are, you know, like this this Vinod Maroli we spoke to. So he is able to do it for a single house because what he does is that he pushes all the organic streams, including food, into it and makes out of it. Yeah. So I think there are possibilities. It's only that how we implement it and how can we scale it up. Those are the challenges. But technically, to do it at a single house, 4 houses, 5 houses, it's available. Okay. Also, sanitation is tech and digital. You know, many people feel that what is sanitation? It's just you know. But today, sanitation is very highly tech driven. It is highly digital driven, and there are number of companies. You guys, kudos to you. Yeah, you guys are tech in sanitation, right? So number of companies are making some very interesting and very compelling innovations that can lead to a change. Couple of them. So for example, if you talk about public toilet cleaning, what happens is that a guy comes,
cleans it, then he will have a 11 o'clock duty, he will have a 3 o'clock duty, and then end of the day duty. That's all. But the toilet may or may not remain clean in between, because it depends on the traffic, you know. If in the college the periods get over at 10:30, it will become dirty. So there are tech now available. This is Gandhaved, which maps the odor in the latrine and tells the supervisor on his app that at this particular place the odor threshold has been crossed. So on demand you can then do the cleaning up, you know. Similarly, about cleaning of waste, that particular one on that top right is a very interesting robo that goes inside the drain. Now Avinash, you think about sanitary workers who have to go under the drain. So this thing goes in and can predict that by the way things are piling up in the drain, it can predict that by tomorrow morning it will choke. So action can be taken before rather than then somebody needing to go inside and clearing up that choke. Yeah. This guy, Fluid Robotics, is doing flourishing business with Singapore and London municipal corporations, because they have deployed that robos with cameras. This guy sits here in Pune, analyzes those images, sends image analysis reports on these drains to them for them to take action. So again, you know, sanitation is also about digital India. And therefore, I believe that of those three phases, Mahatma Gandhi's social and health, social of Sulabh, Swachh Bharat of health and environment, because it wanted to address it. We now are in that fourth phase where sanitation is also going to become an economic compelling force. Yeah, it can push up the economy. And when I was in Toilet Board, we published this paper, and very interesting findings we have is that there was a previous work of 2017 which had pitched the sanitation economy to something like that in 2021 it would be about $62 billion. What we found is that in fact in 2021 it had already reached $97.4 billion, and then it will grow to 115 and end up at 148 by 2030. Yeah, and somebody also quoted these figures, right? You guys quoted some of these figures, and there are all these money is attributable to certain end products: biogas, electricity, biochar, agricultural products, the water that you will get out of this, protein rich materials and other innovative products or services. Yeah. So now I am not saying that we have reached $97 billion. What it means is that there is demand, there is potential, there is a possibility to get that market share, provided we think scale. And here I look at some of the facts of our country and whether it's a matter of our mindset, whether these are challenges or these are indeed an opportunity. It's flipping the same coin, right? So with 1.3 billion population, you will have high amount of fecal sludge. With 100 million new toilets, that fecal sludge now is contained and is not on the fields. You have farm animals to the tune of 400 million, and that's not a small number. It is more than the people in US. Yeah, and then of course the billions of liters of daily household wastewater. Now, the narrative needs to shift. We are no longer in that situation where, like in the Western countries, is to say take this sanitation waste, treat it to safety. Okay, so sanitation waste treated, safe. That's all. We need to be a very different paradigm. Is sanitation waste treat it and extract value. That is what will help this country, not only in solving the problems that we have, but also in creating wealth. So, our default thinking should become treat and extract value, and not only treat. Yeah? And this is one thing that I have been advocating with people like India Sanitation Coalition, etc., because we cannot afford only to treat. That mindset needs to change. So, for at least success on SDG 6 clean water and sanitation, my view is that there are 3 factors that will help us succeed. Invention, we have many, and we have seen many inventors. We are blessed with talent. We have immense talent in the country. Yeah. So, how can we scale inventions into innovations? That is one. Also, we need to shift. We have been building these large wastewater treatment plants across cities. Can we think small and build wastewater treatment plants across communities wherein the possibility of extracting value becomes better? Yeah. So, shift from centralized to decentralized, and of course, the point I made earlier is circular economy from linear to circular. Now, this is a diagram that I have put together about water, sanitation and hygiene. This I used it at the Singapore International Water Week last year, and there are many things here. Yeah, so water means you need to access safe drinking water, but you also need to monitor consumption. You need to track losses, distribute, harvest from rain or atmosphere, and water body cleanup. And treatment would mean desalination, grey water recycling, wastewater recycling. But sanitation also has various facets like toilets, clean, safe and hygienic, the kind of things you are saying, operations and maintenance, access. In many cities you can't simply think about going to a public toilet because of the problems. Yeah. Then you need right kind of plumbing. In case of sewage and fecal sludge, you have to build, contain, transport, treat, O&M and recover. And on menstrual hygiene also, we have to think we are a country of 1.4 billion people, and the number of menstrual hygiene products that are disposed into the environment which are not biodegradable and are also infectious is very high. So therefore, that also needs to be considered. And to address all these issues, I believe that India has something to offer to the world in terms of digital data, sensors, IoT, robotics and circularity. And this should be the focus of our sanitation agenda for the country. Now here I have put together an estimation of how that sanitation economy, circular sanitation economy can be achieved. Yeah. Now what happens is that it depends on it's not that you can get biogas as well as compost as well as animal feed from one source. But the fact is that given the context of a certain geography, of a certain community, cultural context, you may be able to choose one path or the other. Yeah. And in each of these paths, yeah, there exists enough value. So if you were to focus on biogas, you can think about a $59 million sort of an opportunity. Yeah. Focus on compost, then of course it is 24 million, and then 74 million for animal feed. Now I'll tell you an interesting thing what we saw on animal feed. This is real, by the way. Yeah. How do you think we can think about animal feed from human waste? Yeah. So there is a type of a worm which composts the human waste. In process of composting that human waste, that worm multiplies. It's like an earthworm. It's called tiger worm. Yeah. So the tiger worm multiplies while eating human waste, and that tiger worm can then be processed to pasteurized temperature into dryness to make animal feed. So you have essentially converted human waste into animal feed, safe animal feed which is highly proteinaceous in nature. So if you think of it, what are those factors that will enable scale? Scale is the issue. We discussed this even in the previous panel. And so the digitization and mechanization can enable scale. Of course, mechanization will have a barrier in terms of cost, but then the other thing, nowadays in terms of software, people offer software as a service, SaaS they call it, right? It's time we say SaaS for sanitation as a service, yeah, and wherein such mechanized devices can be rented, yeah, or those kind of things, So that's something, wash as a service and pay as you go, pay per use sort of things are coming up. So these two things are really doing well for India in terms of improving the scale or expanding the scale. What we need to do is that there is this whole opportunity which I call white space. White space is that opportunity is there, nobody is coming and sitting there. Yeah? And we believe WASH in schools or educational institutions can be a huge opportunity, yeah, because today the WASH in institutions, be it toilets, be it hand wash, hygiene, everything in a typical school in India is lower than the standard of urban living. And there is an opportunity to kind of bring it to the right health standards, and this opportunity we measured also. Tell me the number of educational institution buildings we have in India. Give an estimate. Yeah, you are right. So it's 1 million buildings which have students. It could be hostels, it could be university buildings, it could be colleges. So just think and tell today they are the students, they come and they told you that the toilets are not good. Yeah. Toilets are good in many countries in educational institutions. Yeah. And what is there is that it is based on a certain way of cleaning, the ecosystem is there, and it is not that they don't have money. We estimate that a typical toilet cleaning thing in a large building which has multiple blocks of toilets could be as low as 700 to 800 rupees per month cost wise. So it's not really, it's about changing the mindset. So imagine 1 million buildings in which if there are 4 toilet blocks, so you have 4 million toilets to think about, and that much could be the revenue. And then circular economy I have been talking about so far. But the other issue which is again, when you want to productize something, when you want to sell something as a product, yeah, usually we do not think of benchmarks, tests, standards and everything. I often, and this kind of ignorance exists at the highest possible level. There is say a wastewater treatment plant manufacturer who says, okay, I am coming and I am giving a very compact plant which will be equivalent, household can use it, okay. But what will be the BOD of the incoming water, what will be the BOD of the outgoing water, COD, what is the energy consumption, okay, how it has to be cleaned, what is the temperature in which it will work, so whether it can be deployed in Jammu or Leh Ladakh or it can be deployed in Chennai. All those kind of frameworks people are not concerned of. They become so very, I would say, gung-ho about their product, their invention, that they do not contextualize that as a product, and each product should have a certain standard. It should say what it will do and what it will not be able to do. That should be very clear to the buyer, then scale comes. because then you have a comparator from which you buy. Yeah? And that is the reason, you know, standard certification and skilling of people who are going to sell, who are going to maintain, who are going to service those is very, very important. And I think that is a measure that will build the confidence of India-based technologies, because honestly, whatever our entrepreneurs are doing is not only for India. Of course, India will benefit, but there are a host of countries which are following the lead of India, be it as simple as you know, Mauritius on one hand, but the entire continent of Africa is looking up to India to help them improve their sanitation in a cost effective manner. Yeah, you are not going to get granite bathrooms that exist in the US in Africa. Yeah, but we have successful models that can be replicated elsewhere. So this is a global opportunity, and that is the reason why this center is also Global Sanitation Center of Excellence. So I'm just thinking about what is happening today in our ecosystem. Yeah, we recently did a treated fecal sludge compost standard for non-food applications. We have the GSCOE. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is deeply interested in this reinvented toilets. So overall, the ecosystem and sanitation, you know, of sanitation is kind of becoming stronger, more compelling. Players are interested in doing some serious work here, including the government. So the government of India established somewhere in 2019 a waste to wealth mission. Yeah, and the mission director is now on GSCOE governing council. Yeah, and also the Atal Amrut 2.0 very clearly says, so funding is available. There is absolutely no dearth of funding for sanitation. Yeah, 100% coverage of household sewerage septage management in 500 Amrut cities. Yeah. So to the question that you were asking, Anuradha, is that okay, can we do it at household level? If you have a technology that can be deployed at the household level, Amrut cities can take it. You know? So in my view, sanitation is the only sector that can create wealth while reducing adverse environmental impact and improving health of the nation. You tell me any other business that does not emit GHG. This sector, if done properly, will be actually negative on GHG, right? It is almost 100 billion economy, so it is creating wealth and it is improving people's health. All these things, I don't think that at least I don't know of any other business sector that can do this. So, open to questions. Thank you.
You know, the negative emissions point you made, I'm still trying to get my head around how is I understand that left alone without biogas or without those kind of systems, the emissions would be more because you're essentially emitting methane instead of carbon dioxide. But how if you're going to capture it, make biogas and then flare it, but not use it for your uses, right? Then aren't you still positive emissions? If the argument is because you're using this fuel, some other need of yours is not using what you're now using, and therefore you're net negative. That argument I understand. That's the argument.
That's right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your know-how with this. It has really brought a lot of clarity in our thought process and instilled the adherence of standards as non-negotiable. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Praveen to hand over the memento to Dr. Nimisha. Thank you, sir. And now, I'm very happy to announce that the team led by Mr. R.S. Sanchit from MEPCO Engineering College was judged as the promising idea in Idea Pitch event, and they'll be awarded with a certificate and cash prize. Now, I would like to call upon Dr. Nimisha to hand over the certificates to the team. Please, sir. Mr. R.S. Sanchit, Mr. T. Chandramouli, Mr. G. Shakti Balan, and Mr. Sri Ganesh. Hearty congratulations, dear team. Now, I would like to hand over the podium to Ms. Swati Katil to felicitate the dignitaries and also to mark the vote of thanks on the behalf of the entire staff of TechIn. Over to you, Swati.
Thank you, Alex. As we have come to the conclusion of our second offline event of Prabhaav Innovation Grand Challenge, on behalf of the entire organizing team from TechIn and GSCOE, I would like to thank each and every one of you gathered over here for making this event a success. I'm sure that the participants and innovators would be highly benefited from these deliberations and experiences shared by today's speakers. It was a day well spent as we had the privilege and honor to have attended talks by eminent personalities like Professor Ramesh Venkateshwaran as the chief guest and keynote speaker of this event, and Dr. Nimisha, the plenary speaker for the day. And I also take this opportunity to thank all the panelists, including Dr. Veena Srinivasan, Mr. Sridharan Muralidharan, Dr. Sanjeev Sambandhan, Mr. Amit Sen Gupta, Mr. Vishwanath S., Ms. Shobha Raghunathan, Ms. Kalpana Sindhu, and Mr. Avinash Krishnamurthy for gracing us with your presence and thoughts. We are also highly obliged to have had Dr. Vivek Chaturvedi, Dr. Praveen Govind, and Ms. Anuradha Shankar as our moderators for the panel discussions. We would like to mark our heartfelt thanks to all our supporters and institution partners in this journey. On this occasion, I would like to point out the fact that IIT Palakkad and its directors, staff members, and students who constitute our parent organization is a strong pillar of our support that we always rely on and find strength in. We would also like to thank the Office of PSA, Government of India, for the directional support as our facilitation partner. Thanks to our technology partners, IAPMO India, ERM Scientific, and Toilet Board Coalition for the knowledge shared and networking provided to enrich the ecosystem. Also, I hereby extend my sincere appreciation to our funding partners, HDFC Bank and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, without whom this center and event would not have been possible. Our sincere gratitude to all our incubators, pool of mentors and ecosystem partners for the continued support for our innovation and incubation activities to keep us moving in the right direction. A very warm thanks to the management and staff of Bangalore International Center for providing all the amenities for this program and also for hosting us. We thank all the participants and staff of TechIn who joined us today and made this event fruitful. Thank you very much.